GCSE Biology. This is a revision lesson on the human nervous system. So grab your book and grab your pen and let us begin. The lesson objectives are to 1. Explain how the nervous system is adapted to its function, and 2. Explain how various structures in a reflex arc relate to their function. The nervous system enables humans to react to their surroundings and to coordinate their behavior. The nervous system helps us to avoid danger. The nervous system is made up of the central nervous system, also called CNS. The CNS consists of the spinal cord and also the brain. The nervous system is also made up of the peripheral nervous system, which consists of neurons, also called nerve cells. Electrical impulses are sent along nerve cells to and from the central nervous system. There are 3 types of neurons that you need to know about, students. You need to know that you have 1, the sensory neuron, 2, relay, and 3, the motor neuron. Let us look at a few important definitions that you need to know for this topic. The first word is stimuli, and a simpler word for stimuli would be changes. So I'm talking about changes in the environment around us. For example, a loud, sudden sound in the environment, that would be classified as a stimulus. Another one could be the heat or the pain that is felt from touching something hot. Another word that we need to know about is receptors. Receptors are often found in sense organs. They detect changes or stimuli in the environment. And these are our sense organs, our eyes, our ears, nose, tongue, and skin. It is quiz time. Let us check our knowledge on receptors and sense organs. Name the receptor that would detect the stimulus if the stimulus is heat or pain. The receptor would be the skin. Very good. Next one. Name the receptor that would detect the stimulus if the stimulus is bright light. Receptor would be the eyes. Name the receptor that would detect the stimulus if the stimulus is loud music. The ears. Name the receptor that would detect the stimulus from eating lemons. It would be the tongue. Very good. Last one. Name the receptor that would detect the stimulus if the stimulus is perfume sprayed in the room. The answer is the nose. Very good. Let us now move on. Let us now look at the function of the different neurons in the nervous system. The first neuron is the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron is responsible for transmitting electrical impulse from the receptors in the sense organs. The next neuron is the relay neuron. The relay neuron is found in the CNS. And students, remember, the CNS is either the brain or the spinal cord. In this example, it is the spinal cord. The next neuron is the motor neuron. The motor neuron transmits electrical impulse from the CNS to the effector, and the effector could either be a muscle, and the muscles would contract, or glands, and glands release chemicals. Let's look at the neurons from a different diagram. So the first one, the orange one right here, is the sensory neuron. Remember, the sensory neuron transmits electrical impulses from the receptors found in the sense organs. And in this case, the sense organ is the skin. The second neuron is the relay neuron. The relay neuron is found in the CNS. And remember, the CNS can either be the brain or the spinal cord. In this case, it is the spinal cord. And lastly is the motor neuron. The motor neuron transmits the electrical impulse away from the CNS towards the effector. And in this case, the effector is a muscle. And remember, muscles, what they do, they contract. What you need to also notice, students, is that the three neurons are not physically touching or linked. There is a gap right here in between the neurons. They are not touching. And this gap is called the synapse. Let us look at the function of the synapse in the nervous system. So when the electrical impulse gets to the end of a neuron, so this neuron number 1, what is going to happen? Chemicals called neurotransmitter are released from the neuron. The chemicals diffuse across the synapse and bind to the receptors on the next neuron, and this generates an impulse in the next neuron. So that is how the electrical impulse moves from one neuron to another. Lots of our responses are coordinated by the brain. For example, turning on a light switch, writing in your book or on a board, washing your hands at a tap. You thought about those actions and you volunteered to do them, and so that is why they are considered to be voluntary actions. There are certain responses and actions you do not want to be thinking about, and these are what we call reflex actions. These are rapid automatic responses to stimulus to protect the body from harm. For example, when a baby grips their parent to prevent falling, or when you pull away your arm from a hot object to prevent burning. These are what we call reflex action. The brain is not directly involved in producing these responses. This would take too long. The brain is informed after the action is done. Let us look at how the nervous system works using a common example. So first there is a stimulus, and in this case the stimulus is heat or pain. Number 2, the skin receptor detects the stimulus, which is heat or pain, and also generates an electrical impulse, which is then transmitted along the sensory neuron. The electrical impulse then passes to the relay neuron, which is found in the CNS, and the CNS in this example is the spinal cord. Number 5, the impulse is transmitted along the motor neuron to the effector, and in this case the effector is a muscle, and the muscle will respond by contracting. And the response is that the arm will be pulled away from the hot object. Let us now look at the reflex action using a diagram that is very common in your exams. Please note that the question that is attached to this topic is usually 4 to 5 marks, so it is an extended response questions. What I would advise you to do is to write down these points because these are the points that you must have for that question. Okay, so the first thing that you need to mention is that there is a stimulus. And please state the stimulus. In this example, it is heat or pain. But in your example, students, it could be light. It could be that there is a sound. Okay, so but for this one, the stimulus is heat or pain. Number 2, the skin receptors detect the stimulus. Number 3, an electrical impulse is transmitted along the sensory neuron. You must name the neuron. Number 4, the impulse is then transmitted to the relay neuron, and please say where the relay neuron is found. Number 5, the impulse is transmitted along the motor neuron to the effector. And then number 6, you need to name the effector. The effector in this case is a muscle, and you must say how the muscle will respond. It will contract. And number 7, the arm is pulled away from the object. This is what you need to have down for your extended response question that is linked to reflex action. There is another definition that you need to know: reflex arc. Reflex arc is the nervous pathway that a nerve impulse takes during a reflex action, right? So the pathway, students, would be from the sensory neuron through the relay neuron and through the motor neuron to the effector, right? That is the pathway. and that is what we call the reflex arc. Please make sure that you know this definition. There are times you do questions, students, especially extended response questions, and you believe that you have done well. And when you get your papers back, you look at the paper and you did not do well. Why? It's not that you do not have the knowledge, it's because you're not writing and using the specific scientific terminologies that will give you the marks, right? So for this topic, students, ensure that you know and you are using these keywords: neurons, electrical impulse. Please do not say message or information. Say electrical impulse. Stimulus or stimuli, receptors, synapse, effector, reflex arc, reflex action. And when it comes to neurons, students, name them: sensory, relay, and motor neurons. That will help you to score good marks on your paper. It is quiz time. Let us check our knowledge on what we have learned so far. Students, please pause the video and answer these 6 questions. Go ahead and check your work now, students. Did you get 6 out of 6? Make the necessary corrections. Thank you so much for watching and all the best in your exam.